I hit the road when I was like 20. I followed the remaining members of the Grateful Dead around the country on a school bus full of hippies. And when the sign pointed right, I would go left. I've been mass deleting people from my friends list that are not in alignment with the direction I'm moving in life. I locked eyes with this little stone statue that I had carved, 20 years ago. Something just clicked. The energy that flooded through me was the most powerful sense of joy and divine connection that I've ever experienced.
I'm Dave Gold, the host of the Evolve Your Brand podcast. We're streaming out of Sayulita, Mexico right now. We've got Eric Oliver. So Eric is an artist. He's an off-grid alternative living enthusiast and a New Hampshire native living in Hawaii. Welcome to the podcast, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and honored to be your featured guest today.
Nice. So wait, I think you told me this is your first time doing a podcast before?
Yeah, I mean, I've done all kind of live streams and things like that, but like an official podcast, yeah, absolutely.
And so what are you really excited to talk about? What are you really passionate about?
I'm super excited about mindset work and like law of attraction stuff, manifestation techniques. And for me, this is something that you don't just like read a book or listen to a seminar and be like, yeah, I read that book, I learned about that, and then just go on with your same life doing the same thing. This is something, if you really tap into that and dive deep, you can absolutely change your life and very quickly. And that's currently what I'm just enthralled by that's unfolding in my life right now.
Well, tell me more about that, because I know the last time we spoke, you said that you live in Hawaii and you live off grid and you spend a lot of time in solitude and really working on your artwork and on yourself. So how did you start to get interested in that kind of way of living or being?
Okay, right. Yeah, good question. So, I mean, I've always lived a very alternative path. I hit the road when I was like 20. I followed the remaining members of the Grateful Dead around the country on a school bus full of hippies and just kind of was always doing alternative things. Like when the sign pointed right, I would go left and that kind of thing. Off-grid living, that kind of I came into that haphazardly. I didn't say I want to live off grid. I at one point owned my own school bus and I had it packed full of hippies and we are traveling all around North America, all over the US and then Canada, and we drove west across Canada, and by the time we got to Vancouver Island, most of everybody else that was on the bus had scattered and it was down to just myself and my girlfriend at the time. It was a new relationship and we wanted to just go off into the forest somewhere and get to know each other more. And we wound up on this little tiny island in between Vancouver Island and British Columbia mainland, took the ferry boats across and wound up living in the bush out there for 2 years on this little island. It was amazing. And so that's how I got started with off-grid living. And since then, that was very bare bones rustic living. Since then, I've gradually increased my creature comforts, still living off grid, but now on a beautiful farm in Hawaii in a house and everything like that. So
like how close are you to civilization, and like how far away is the closest store to you or supermarket?
Okay, yeah. So I live about 15 minutes outside of a small town. It's a pretty interesting area. There's lots of colorful people and it's kind of a mecca of off-grid and alternative living in this area, and like
what's it called?
Intentional communities and things like that. It's called Pahoa. It's on the Big Island. Yeah.
Wow. And so did you have a dream of living in Hawaii? Why?
Yeah, I didn't. I did not have a dream of living in Hawaii. I was years back, I was traveling all over the world to different countries and all over different areas. And I had an idea that I wanted to visit Hawaii. So I came and visited and I really loved it. And at the time I had a property out in the mountains near Mount Shasta in Northern California. I was out there for a decade. And for a few years, I was traveling back and forth between the two locations. And, I'd spend my summers out in the mountains in Northern California and my winters in Hawaii. And over time, I started just feeling really scattered. I'd get back to my property in California and the weeds were all overgrown and it was like getting too late to plant my garden for the season and that kind of thing. And I was just falling more and more in love with Hawaii. So eventually sold the property there and got my spot here.
Interesting. We were talking last time because I actually hosted a retreat with
Okay.
none other than the Adam Boness from Humboldt County in Willow Creek, which is pretty close to Shasta. We actually drove past Mount Shasta on the way out. And,
Right.
we had a incredible men's retreat where we had a really powerful psilocybin ceremony. And you were telling me that you had some really powerful plant medicine experiences as well. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk about that, about how your journey with plant medicine began and like what was the catalyst for the transformation in your life?
Okay, yeah, great question. I mean, with my background, I was always kind of like exploring with psychedelics and whatnot. And I feel like decades ago it was not very intentional use. It was just kind of recreational. Although I got a lot of significant insights that, shaped me in a lot of ways. More
Mm,
recently, dating back to, about maybe 6 years ago, I started to get much more intentional with it and much more frequent with it. And yeah, it's had a profound effect on self development and really
mm,
completely transformed my life in the past 6 years. And more recently, I've kind of removed myself from the world. I stopped going out. I haven't been going to community events, dances, haven't been hanging out with friends much at all, very selectively here and there. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at it as a sort of solitude retreat here on my farm. And yeah, just kind of removing myself from outside influences other than the influences I specifically choose to be exposed to. And that's been really positive in rapid transformation. Yeah, I've been using some plant medicines here and there during this time. Daily hypnosis sessions have been really powerful, really
mm,
inspired, paradigm shifting audio books and seminars about like money
mm.
mind, success mindset, law of attraction, and manifestation techniques and things like that. And during the past 3 months that I've been in that space, my life is just blooming in so many ways. And yeah, a lot of that is a result of really significant mindset shifting.
I love that. And I really resonate with that because, I actually just got off the phone with a guy who I met in St. Martin. And before I went to St. Martin, I had my first experience where I realized the difference between recreational psychedelics and psychedelic psychotherapy. And I had this really powerful ceremony that completely changed my life. And over the last few years, I've been operating at a different frequency and I've been seeing things differently. And I am still not perfect, right? I have my triggers, I have my flaws, right? But I've really opened up my heart. And I don't know if it would have been possible without diving deeper into ceremony, not just
Mhm.
having fun and partying and looking for the wife and trying to raise the kids, but actually going deep and doing deep internal healing work because that's really what the medicine that we talk about enables us to do. It enables us to heal childhood trauma. It enables us to overcome blocks and limiting beliefs around our mindset, around our self worth, around who we are and where we're going with our lives. And, I'm just wondering, like, what was like a pivotal moment that you've experienced that whether that's through your hypnosis or through your work with plant medicine that's really shifted your mindset?
Okay. Well, one thing that comes immediately to mind when you say that was one day specifically where I was doing a money mindset hypnosis session. I listened to these
Mm,
recordings on headphones and immediately coming out of the session without even thinking about it, I just got up out of bed and went right to my easel and started painting where I hadn't been painting in kind of maybe about a month. I was really just focused in on business activities. And I want to talk more about overcoming my creative block in a little bit because that's a really powerful one. Or maybe I'll talk about that now because that's probably the biggest, most potent mindset shift I've ever experienced in my entire life. So yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, last winter I was in a space of an extended kind of dark night of the soul. I was in a
yeah.
really heavy space. I was feeling lost,
Mm,
without purpose. I was working really hard, just relentless action. And not getting a whole lot of results. And I was feeling depressed. I was just in a really heavy space and like,
Yep.
just like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I doing with my life, And I hadn't sat with ayahuasca in probably close to a year at that point. Maybe that's why I was in this space like that. I was just kind of like not connected with my purpose. So I went into ceremony by myself, just in my bedroom with the lights off. And it was in between rounds. So like I'll have 2 rounds of medicine. You'll drink the medicine and then the lights go out for a few hours. And then in between rounds, you light a candle and then pour the next round of medicine. And in between the 2 rounds of medicine, when I had the candle lit, I'm looking at my altar and there's all kind of crystals and things like that. But there's also this little stone statue that I'd carved 20 years ago at a time when I was like just living, breathing, and bleeding art. It was just like my purpose. Like I've always loved art so much. And yeah, through the course of my adult life, I just became blocked and stopped creating completely and just felt no inspiration for it whatsoever. And I locked eyes with this little stone statue that I had carved, 20 years ago. And something just clicked. And I picked it up and I'm looking at it. And then I looked over at my bedroom wall where I'd painted this big mural that somewhat resembles the art behind me. Like about 5 or 6 years ago, I had an anomaly come through after a DMT experience where I painted the very first black and white checkered art that came through me on my bedroom wall. And then I got blocked immediately after that and didn't paint again. But in between the round of medicine with the candlelight, I looked at the statue and then I looked at the wall, and I just like the energy that flooded through me was the most powerful sense of joy and just divine connection and bliss and love that I've ever experienced. And I blew the candle back out, and the rest of the ceremony was just filled with the most amazing sense of just joy and wonder and awe for life as I just started dreaming this vision of what my life actually is and what I'm meant to create in life.
Which is what do you feel like your life is, and what are you meant to do?
Yeah. So my true purpose, which I connected with that night, is to create art, to bring realms that, most people can't see from other, from the fifth dimension, and bring that into physical form and infuse that with, messages that I'm receiving from the plant medicine realm, and bring that and deliver that to people, messages of like, how to bring your thought forms into physical form and keys to unlock human potential and infinite abundance and all kinds of other that haven't even come through yet of, kind of just the inner workings of the universe. And just feeling I have this gift to share with the world, and just feeling about, the profound impact that can have on humanity. And just feel like that can really help uplift and make the world a better place. So I feel like it's just become my life mission to do this, and it brings me literally tears of joy when I stand before my easel and I'm painting. So I feel really just grateful and humbled, really, to have found my purpose in that way.
Wow, powerful, powerful. And I really resonate with that a lot. I did an episode on my podcast with Momadou Mambere. He's from West Gambia, and we sat at a men's circle in Tulum. And I thought, I heard about ayahuasca. I'm probably not going to do that until I go to Colombia. My friend, he told me it's like really good for anti-aging and having a great time going to all these ceremonies. And this guy was like connecting with me on such an energetic level that I invited him to do a live podcast episode. And just as he was talking about sitting Shipibo style, the SD card got cut off. And so I took that as a sign from God that I got to go and sit with ayahuasca in the jungle between Tulum and Playa del Carmen. And I did, and it was life-changing. And, there was a lot of trauma around, the relationships and with God, with family that was healed, that came to the surface and that was released. And then he connected me with a friend, and I just shared a reel today of Tapo Van Tamas, who hosts these incredible yoga ayahuasca healing retreats in the mountains of Mexico in Tepoztlan with temazcal and ice bath and vegan food and a pool and beautiful mountains. And it's really, really remarkable. Everyone that I met there were the most beautiful human beings that were working on themselves and creating more impact in their lives and their family lives and also in their businesses. And there's also a big aspect of plant medicine that has to do with integration. So, I'm just wondering, how has like integration with ayahuasca and plant medicine and the mindset work, how's that kind of shaped your approach to business these days?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm really glad you asked me that. That's crucial. It's one thing to go into plant medicine realm and receive these insights and downloads, but if you don't integrate them, it has little to no benefit, like lasting benefit that you can actually work with and have,
Mm,
very minimal or little, maybe not even have any real lasting impact on your life if you don't do the integration work. So yeah, that's something that is a major part of the work that I'm doing is I'll go in and have these experiences with plant medicines, and I'll always have my journal with me, and I'll do a lot of writing. Sometimes if I'm really deep in it, my writing skills aren't present, and I'll just do voice record, which is really helpful. And then I have record I can look back at the next day and days moving forward, because I get really clear instructions on things that, like, the actual action items that I need to be focused on to move me forward. And a lot of the work that I'm doing with plant medicine is very business related. And like I'll always set very clear intentions before ceremony and going into ceremony. And yeah, intention setting and integration are very closely related and intertwined. You get out of the
mm.
ceremony exactly what the intentions are that you put in. And then it's the integration work that brings you the lasting results in your life. So, yeah, recently I had an experience on mushrooms. I took a very strong dose last weekend. And one of the intentions I set was like a money switch, like to turn that on. And since then, just this week, I've had just leads on tap for my online business. And that's been amazing. And it's, I feel, a result of a mindset shift. I feel like I've had a lot of blockages around success within myself. I've noticed certain patterns of behavior where I'm literally blocking myself from opportunities that are right there in front of me. And yeah, some of the work that I did this past weekend, I feel like really helped remove those blockages and open up a very clear channel in the direction that I'm actually wanting to move in. So yeah, that's been really exciting.
Wow. And I love your vulnerability and how you really share from the heart. I think it's rare. So I think you've got a future in podcasting if you decide to create your own. You were telling me before that audiobooks kind of played a role in your life as well. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, how do you incorporate that into your personal development routine? Because for me, like, everyone says that they have ADHD these days. I don't associate with that. However, I can see that I have those similar like tendencies. I get distracted easily and I feel overwhelmed, and there's a lot on my plate at times, especially right now as the business is starting to expand. And audiobooks is something that I really love to do, but I don't always prioritize. So, how do you incorporate audiobooks into your life?
Yeah. I have these noise canceling headphones, and I keep them on a lot of the time. And I don't listen to as much music as I used to. I love music, and a lot of times, music's what I need more than audiobooks to just make me feel good and be in a flow state. But what I'm finding is I get more significant benefit and like personal development and growth through listening to audiobooks. So I make a point, I have a commitment where, a minimum of 1 hour a day. Oftentimes it's much longer than that. And yeah, I have a suggested reading list that I'm going through right now. And it's epic. I started with, it's not an audio book, but it's a seminar by Kevin Trudeau, who dropped out of,
Ooh,
you know
Kevin
of him?
Trudeau. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of famous and infamous at the same time. I think he's in jail right now.
Is he really? Oh no.
Yeah, you gotta search Kevin Trudeau on Google. What was the series that he created?
Yeah, your wish is your he the
Your
Kevin
wish is your
Trudeau show.
command. Yep,
And
your wish
yeah,
is your command. That's a great audio series, really taps into the subconscious mind. But if you don't use these things appropriately, whether it's plant medicine or subconscious reprogramming, Kevin Trudeau is an example of someone that got kind of caught up in some shady business. And it's like, there's also a lot of people that get into plant medicine, they don't integrate, they don't find the right shaman, so it's like, yeah, yeah. So you're reading Kevin Trudeau.
So yeah, I listened to that and it's just like really potent downloads on the law of attraction and manifestation.
It's true.
Yeah, so I've been applying that, but he gave a really great suggested reading list, which I've been going through one at a time and then listening to the over and over again before I move on to the next one. So it's like really integrate that.
Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like
Yeah.
those 10 books, those top 10 books of all time that he put in there. Yeah.
Psycho Cybernetics, like Shift Your Identity. Yeah, there's a lot of great ones. I don't have the list right handy, but there's some really great books in there.
So how do you kind of like integrate, some of these practices into your daily life without overwhelming yourself?
I think I'm just so enthralled by it. I don't feel overwhelmed. I just feel lit up and excited because I'm experiencing how much it's changing my life at such a rapid pace. Kind of become my lifestyle.
And is there any other book or podcast that you would recommend people to check out that really stood out for you or had a profound transformation in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first audiobooks I got into, this was a ways back before this recent development of like the past few months. It's called Happy Pocket Full of Money. By, forget the author. I don't want to ruin his name. The book's called Happy Pocket Full of Money, and it changed my life. It just taps into it's like a deep dive in quantum physics and how that's like the science of how the law of attraction works and how you can use that with the power of your mind to create what you want in life.
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
Can you expand upon that a little bit? Like what do you want in your life? Like what does creating a life beyond your wildest dreams look like for you right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it looks like, so there's the long-term vision and then there's just like where I'm at now and what that process looks like and kind of where I'm coming from as well ties into that, just to give it all context. I've come from really minimalistic living for decades and off grid with not a whole lot. And, I've built myself up to a level of creature comforts. And there's a lot of things that a lot of people have in their life that, they take for granted that I haven't had. I've lived a very alternative life. And yeah, I'm just wanting to increase my standard of living first and foremost and be able to, travel more freely and just create more, have more freedom of choice and flexibility of what I'm able to do in life. Long-term vision is like having, a lot of resources to work with to where I can create without limitation. I have just an abundance of ideas and inspired ideas of things I want to create in life that require a lot of resources, and having the freedom to be able to do that without limitation. And just wanted to create, positive impact on the world. And in a state of like lack and limitation that I was coming from, you can't, it's hard to really create a lot of impact when you're not flowing with abundance and fully in your purpose and power. So that's like what I'm really wanting to create and moving towards, is just having the ability to create more and have greater impact and less limitations.
Powerful. All right. Well, I just have two more for you today. And the first one kind of brings us back to plant medicine. So do you think, like, as the ethical implications of plant medicine and deep inner work and self-transformation start to evolve, there could be any dangers in misusing these powerful tools?
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Absolutely. Just because like I'm going super deep with ayahuasca by myself doesn't mean you should. I have a history of working with shamans and a lot of experience working with plant medicines and use them very intentionally. Somebody else might do the same thing that I'm doing and have a horrible experience maybe they'd have a psychotic break, maybe they'd hurt themselves, maybe they'd become very ungrounded and their life would spin off into chaos. I've seen this happen over and over and over again with people that are not using plant medicines consciously with intention, and they're not giving themselves time to integrate or even trying to integrate. They're just kind of abusing them and using them over and over and over again without space in between them. And I watch their lives become very ungrounded and chaotic, which affects not only themselves, but everybody around them too in negative ways. So yeah, there absolutely are dangers that need to be, there needs to be a lot of awareness around that.
That's interesting. I think that, yeah, when you told me that you were doing ceremony on your own, I was like a bit skeptical and like, what is this guy doing? Like, what does he think this is? This is not a game. But there are even people who do go to ceremony and they have bad experiences. And I can understand why, because if you don't find the right teacher, guide, shaman, community healing space, you open yourself up in a very vulnerable way to work with parts of yourself that might not be fully integrated. And so the integration, it doesn't necessarily just start in the ceremony, it starts and even continues thereafter. And so it's like, if you don't have a safe space to work with the medicine, then what's going to happen in the days and the weeks to come is there's all these emotions that are going to come up and it's going to be hard to really process them. And the placebo effect, it really shows the power of the belief on the mind. And so, if we do work towards creating safer spaces for ayahuasca and peyote and psilocybin, and I don't condone the use of you guys going out and doing this stuff if you don't do your own research, if you don't find the right community. But if you find someone like myself or Eric, maybe you can ask a question. Maybe you could reach out and say, do you know a good ceremony? Do you know a good shaman in Hawaii, in Mexico, right? In somewhere where we can actually get access to these powerful, powerful tools. And yeah, just like my final question is like, how do you see the intersection of science and your experiences with plant medicine influencing the future of mental health?
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, I don't know if I have a really great answer for that other than, let's see. I mean, yeah, I feel a little bit stumped on that one.
I put you on the spot with that one. Do you think that more people are going to be able to heal their ADHD, their anxiety, their depression, their addictions through ceremony in the years to come?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you go into a ceremony and you have the right container to hold that ceremony, you have that intention around what you're trying to heal and you do the integration work, absolutely. It could have profound effects on healing people's various ailments like that, mental health problems, all kinds of different things, depression, anxiety, whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's already like clinical treatments. It's interesting. I see, Facebook ads come up in my feed sometimes for these kind of therapeutic uses of different substances. I'm like, wow, there's like advertising this publicly. Okay, times have changed. So yeah, I think there's going to be more of that too, like in clinical settings where it's more, administered by a doctor and that kind of a thing.
Very interesting. And yeah, we only ask difficult questions here on the podcast. And I expect the same of you when I come on to your platform in a few days. But just before we end off, I just want to know, like, what's next for you on this journey of, developing yourself and healing and going within and living off grid? Where are you evolving to in your life?
Yeah. Oh my God. There's so much evolution happening at such a rapid pace right now that I'm just kind of rolling with it. And I see a clear vision of what it is that I'm aiming for. And at the same time, there's so much unknown factor. And I feel like that unknown element is part of what makes it so exhilarating. There's a lot of growth happening and it's pulling me forward and upward at a very rapid pace. And there's a lot, I don't know what's coming at me other than I'm doing a lot with my art. That's like my primary vision of what I'm aiming for in life is to create something big with my art, get it out there to a really high level audience and, develop a client base with that and get out and travel with my art. I have opportunity to do live art, live painting on stage with a friend of mine who has a very successful jam band, which I'm really excited about.
Nice,
And
nice.
I don't know if that's just like a one appearance or if I could go on tour with them. I don't know. There's a lot of determining factors with that, or what other opportunities that would open up to. Yeah, I see a lot of travel in my future, and I've just been kind of really expanding my network, and I've been very actively networking lately. I've been deleting, like just mass deleting people from my friends lists of like
Same,
just people
same.
that are
It's
like
necessary.
so necessary. Yeah, people that are not in alignment with the direction I'm moving in life. No judgment towards them. I'm just removing people that are stuck in lack and limitation and are not wanting to actually actively make a change in their life. They're just complaining about it and not wanting
Yeah.
to actually do something. Deleting those people and actively networking with really high level people that are doing big things in life and making a lot of amazing new friendships and building relationships with these people. And that's been amazing. And there's so many doors opening up from that. Like that's how I, came into contact with you and had this opportunity to be on this podcast today, was just through that networking activity of just meeting lots of great people without any kind of agenda. I'm not trying to like, cold DM and pitch people at all. I'm just like building relationships with this whole new network and feel really excited about that. And I have no idea where that's going to take me, but it feels really exciting.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, yeah, man, I'm a big advocate of building connections online
Mhm.
and then in person as well. So I hope to meet you in Hawaii one day. And
Yeah.
and yeah, just like the power of networking. That was the first book that I ever wrote, and it really changed my life. And so, if you're watching this and you get inspired, go create your own podcast. Go reach out to Eric or myself and let's have a vulnerable, authentic conversation. This is one of the first times we've ever met, and we're filming it live because we don't have anything to hide. And plus, there's so many people that are interested in working on themselves and healing and traveling the world and living in really unique and authentic lifestyles. So it's like, actually, the more we share what we do, the more we attract cool people right back. And that's the beauty of it. So, yeah, do you want to leave us off with a final quote or final words for the day?
Here's a quote that I came up with the other night during mushroom ceremony. Underneath your bullshit and excuses is where you'll find success.
I love it. I love it. And one thing that I had said too recently as well, which was discomfort creates momentum and momentum breeds success. So I think that, there's some frequency alignment between us that's brought us together. And it's very interesting to have you on the podcast today and have this conversation. So guys, if you feel resonance with Eric, go and add him on Facebook, Eric Oliver. And my name is Dave Gold. And if you like this episode, share it with a friend, drop us a comment what your experience is like or your opinion is on plant medicine, on hypnosis, on audiobooks, and we will see you in the next episode. Peace.